Welcome to Breaking Eggs with Seth Shezi. Breaking Eggs is a visual podcast where Seth talks to creative entrepreneurs, designers, seekers, healers, and thought leaders. During these candid and insightful chats, Seth teases out some nuggets from his exceptional guests that are sure to inspire, entertain, and make you go, huh, when you hear their unique methods of pursuing fulfillment.
I am Seth Shezi. Join me every week as I crack open the lives and learnings of some very special guests. We'll be chatting about the 5 golden pillars of a good life: wellness, wealth, love, mindset, and impact. Through these unscripted chats, I'm looking to uncover untold stories, answer some of my own questions, and hopefully leave you with better ones to ask about your life.
On this week's episode, I talked to Editor-Molife Kumona, Editor-in-Chief of GQ South Africa. We talk about overcoming workplace tensions, Africanizing GQ, and the future of print. But we also briefly dive into the parts of his life he keeps very private. Let's break.
So I finally get to have an episode with the Editor-in-Chief of GQ South Africa.
Yes, indeed. And you look really great.
Thank you.
If I knew I had to do the whole tie
The whole
thing, I'd
tie.
have done that.
No. I mean, it was the pressure. I was under pressure. I'm interviewing, the man who holds all the keys to all things style and fashion. So I had to bring it.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Good. You look good. So I'm sure it's always nice at the top.
It's nice and a lot of pressure. But
Yeah.
Mm.
What pressure? Like everyone looks at you and says, cool, once you've become editor of GQ, you've made it. So now what could be so hard?
I think the pressure of making sure that the brand is relevant.
Okay.
Making sure that because the administrative stuff that you have to do, obviously making sure that you meet your deadlines, making sure that you get the right type of content that resonates with your audiences across all platforms.
Yeah.
And also I think for me personally to consistently get better personally. So if I do something great the last issue, it needs to be greater in the next issue.
So now tell me about your journey to becoming the editor of GQ. So like, what's the history? Who was Molife before he became the editor?
Oh, wow. So my journey has been, it's long and layered.
Okay.
So before I became editor for GQ, I was head of digital for Condé Nast, which is head of digital for GQ, Glamour, and House and Garden.
Nice.
Before that, I worked for Drum Magazine.
Okay.
I was also head of digital there for almost a year or so.
Okay.
Before that, I worked at WeChat. And
Wait, do we still have WeChat in South Africa?
No. But this
Okay.
was.
Because I remember it launched and it was quite a big launch that they did. And then why did it pull out?
I have no idea because
Okay.
I think I left WeChat in 2016.
Okay.
And I went back to Drum because initially, before I went to WeChat, I was at Drum as a picture editor and a content producer.
Okay.
Then before that, I was a content producer. So basically, my life in the media industry, I mean, I've worked for Playboy magazine South Africa. I worked for Oprah magazine. I worked for Zalebs when it was starting, Soul magazine.
But how do I not know any of this? Like, that's why I'm also interested in finding out the story behind you, because it almost seems like the first time I came to like know of you, you were already head of digital, and that's already a really big, powerful position. So I was like, cool, this person just mushroomed, and now they're here, and now they're editor. And so I didn't know that you had actually been in the magazine space for that long.
No, I'd been in the magazine space for close to a decade.
Yeah.
But I do think
Don't show your age now.
Well, I mean, I don't mind my age.
I've only been working for 2 years.
I think the thing for me is because I moved to Cape Town, a lot of people in the Cape Town space didn't know about
you.
me.
Yeah.
In Joburg spaces, yes, people knew about me. However, I'm that kind of person who's not. I'd consider myself an underdog, so I do what I do, and then I lay low.
Yeah.
Then when I need to rise up, I rise up. So
Okay.
I think that's
a
what
good
has
strategy,
happened
yeah.
throughout my career.
Okay, nice. And so essentially then I can summarize that you're an influencer because you've been in the content space for a long time. You just happen to be doing it for magazines and not for your own Instagram.
Definitely. So, yeah, I think I'm influential more than an influencer.
Yeah. Cool. And what draws you to content? Like, what makes you so passionate about it?
So maybe close to 20 years ago, right? So I was on my way to Limpopo on a bus.
Okay.
We stopped at a garage, and then I saw Real magazine then. So I think it was Connie Ferguson on the cover.
Okay, yeah.
I had always loved content, but I saw Connie Ferguson on the cover, and I thought, this is interesting. I bought the magazine, and I started reading it.
Yeah.
And what I found interesting about Real magazine is that it had real people talking about their own stories, but there were also celebrities in the magazine. And I started to think that when you see someone, the finished product of somebody, right, you don't know what the story behind them is. And then I fell in love with the idea of telling stories to show people that they're not alone in their dreams, they're not alone in their suffering, in their audacity to think big, in whatever it is you go through. So that's how I fell in love with content creation. And every job I've done since then, I've almost like put a brick on brick on brick, just building this platform or this house to really say that you're not alone. So if you think you want to be the next president, there are people who have the same idea. If you think you want to start your own production company, if you want to be an editor, you're not alone in terms of thinking ridiculously, as some people would think.
And believing yourself,
Definitely.
And so for you, where does that come from? What did you witness about your life where you were like, oh, wait, things are possible. I can, start from here and then go there.
I think for me, what I witnessed is, so I've always had audacity to just think of something and want to do it. So
do you know where that comes from? Like who of your parents you get that from, or what in your youth inspired that?
I think I get it from both my mom and my dad.
Oh, yeah.
My mom is late now, but she passed away like almost 20 years ago. But I get it from the both of them because my mom was and back then she was like in marketing, like head of marketing. And she would say things like, I would want us to do this.
Yeah.
Then before you know it, like next month you guys are away. You're probably in London or you're like in Zebula somewhere, like enjoying this. And I would think, wow, this is interesting.
Yeah, she made it happen.
She made it happen. Yeah. And one time she was like, you know what? It would be nice to go and watch a soccer match in the evenings when there are not too many people.
Okay. And
months later, she made that happen. So I used to see that a lot. And my dad as well my dad started off as a teacher. So he was a teacher, and this was in Zimbabwe, right? Yeah. So then he moved on to become like a head coach for cricket, traveling to China and all those spaces, and then became a businessman. Yep. So seeing that trajectory of how it could be done, at that time I didn't realize it. But I think over time, I then got to understand that things are possible and listen, just have the audacity to do whatever you want to do.
Wow. Amazing. I mean, those are great examples. Yeah. Now, talk to me about the fact that you were traveling to London when you were young. Because I remember for me, it took me, probably I was like 18 the first time I actually left the country.
But listen, I wasn't that young. I think I was 12.
Oh, okay.
So that's like 6 years before you did.
I mean, like, I think because I'm imagining this was like in the early 90s.
Yes, it was. When you're younger, you don't see it as a thing. Because first of all, you're not paying for it.
Yeah, and you're just being dragged around by your parents.
Exactly. And your parents make it accessible for you. But as you get older, you then realize that, okay, this is actually a thing. Not everybody has had the same experiences I've had. And I think that was it for me.
Yeah. Okay. And so then for you, sitting here now today recording this at Element House doesn't faze you. You're just like, yeah, I'm used to this.
Not really. So how to explain? It doesn't necessarily. I'm in the moment. I'm grateful for the moment, but I think from the time I was 25, 26, I got into that space where I just flow with the direction of my life. Yes, I'm intentional about what I want and what I want to do, but there are a lot of things that have happened in my life that some of them are never in my wildest dream. Some of them are things I have imagined.
Yeah.
So when things like this happen, I go with it. I flow with it. Okay, so we're here now. All right, cool. I wonder where we are next year this time. I wonder.
Yeah.
So,
Do you apply that same philosophy in how you lead your team at GQ?
yes. So the philosophy I apply with my team is, right. So the first thing that I've learned is, you, as a person who's leading a team, right, you don't necessarily have to. So this is the most important thing for me. Necessarily agree with everyone you are leading, but you have to know who's great at what.
Yeah.
So if I don't agree with you, maybe from a personal point of view or for different reasons, if you're great at something, I need to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when you build a team as a leader, right, you need to build it with the strongest people, irrespective of
Your personal differences. Yeah.
That's something I have learned and consistently learn. For as long as you're great at the job, and if we work well professionally, we do it that way. But also the other thing I've tried to do with the team, and it's an ongoing thing, is to have an environment that's relaxed in terms of we're easy, we work easy together, but also allow the team to be as creative as they can be, and we maneuver that. Because I think one of the things that I've learned is that at times you let people, you see someone in one dimension, and then you don't allow them to explore other dimensions. And I think as a leader in any capacity, if you're able to go like, think outside the box. I was laughing at you with a colleague of mine who was telling me that when you tell your team to think outside the box, they think you went crazy. I was like, no, not really. I mean, we think outside the box, but then it's my job as the leader to come in and go like, okay, cool, that's a bit wild.
Yeah.
Or maybe if we do this, it's going to affect the bottom line. So I think that's how I lead. But I also have learned to lead more with understanding and listening.
Yeah.
That used to be a challenge of mine, where I would actively go like, okay, I said this is what I think. But over time, I've had to learn to go like, okay, cool. Okay, what do you think? Okay, cool. This is what you think. Okay, cool. Yeah, okay, it works. Let's try it out. And usually you get great results when you do that. And I've also learned, but it's never been a thing for me though, to consistently be calm even when the situation is crazy.
Yeah.
Whether at a shoot, when people are late, or when things are not working out. A colleague of mine was like, I've never seen you fret when some other people are fretting about deadlines. I was like, no, I'm fretting internally. But I'm coming up with a solution to say, okay, cool, if that doesn't work out, how about we do this, do that? Because I've realized that,
I mean, that is the mark of a leader. You're supposed to be calm under that chaos, because someone needs to. Easy. I mean, I'm sure it is, yeah.
But I think I also learned it from the fact that so if you're in a space, right, and the person who's meant to be leading, whatever space it is, becomes chaotic, what you do is you also offset everyone else around. So if I become chaotic on a set, the cover star will become chaotic, or the model or whatever, then the photographer, then the videographer. So sometimes I need to stay still.
Yeah. So you lead probably the most, quintessential men's magazine in not just South Africa, but in Africa. Do you think of your job that way? Do you think that I am, the editor of men's fashion in Africa? And if you do, does that translate into you wanting to make GQ South Africa a lot more than just for the South African audience?
So I do. I've been thinking like that ever since I was working in digital, understanding fully well that we've got GQ South Africa, which is the only GQ on the continent. Then, especially on digital, it's quite easy because now you engage with different audiences, because obviously analytics shows you where your audiences are, and we actually have great audiences outside South Africa, but South Africa is the main stronghold in terms of audiences. So I do look at it that way, and even in the content that we do, we've consistently done over the years, including both in print and digital, it's geared that way. But at the same time, not forgetting that the core audience is South African, but our supporting audience and our other brothers who are also into lifestyle fashion are outside of South Africa.
So then, does that mean we'll be seeing someone wearing, I should know the official name for this, the traditional Nigerian garb, you know, like what they normally wear, the long shirts with the pants and the hat?
In which issue? There's I forgot his name. I have no idea how I forgot his name.
Yeah.
There's an issue where we interviewed someone from Nigeria. It's a very big celebrity.
Okay.
I forgot.
Not
his
Two-Face?
name. No, not Two-Face. Very big celebrity, and he was actually wearing that.
Davido?
No.
I'm running out of people I know from Nigeria.
No,
Burna Boy?
You are running out of people you know
Burna
from
Boy?
Nigeria. No, not Burna Boy.
I think that's about it. I'm out.
Yeah, I forgot his name, but I think I'll remember.
Okay.
We interviewed him for a section in GQ, the magazine, called GQ Guide.
Okay.
And he was wearing that, looking really dope. So we've done that.
But he wasn't on the cover.
No, he wasn't on the cover.
So how do we Africanize the covers?
I mean, we've had Elsa Majimbo on the cover. She's from Kenya.
No, I get that. But I'm saying like aesthetically as well. So like in terms of, because I feel like South African designers, even if they're African, which is obviously they are because they're from Africa.
Yes.
The aesthetic a lot of the time tends to be more European.
Yes.
Just because naturally that's where we feed the influences from. Everything we watched, like myself, if you grew up in the 90s, everything you watched was British or American.
Yes, that's true.
And you just can't run away from that. And it's been like that for time. And when you look at Nigeria and you look at how what they consider traditional garb, they wear it, you know, as normal day wear.
I think we've done that. I mean, we're still going to continue doing that, but we've done that with when we did Jedina on the cover.
Yeah.
That was very Afrocentric. When we had Black Coffee on the cover.
Yeah.
That was not European inspired, more African inspired. When we had Trevor Stroman on the cover for GQ Style, it was also the same. So definitely we're going to do more of that. Understanding as well that as much as Africa is in Africa, we are now global players as Africa. So if you're going to wear a dashiki, for example, you can wear a dashiki in your LV shades. So because we're global players and we're also still a global brand, so it's the merging of both lifestyles and fashion in a way that shows that we are on an equal footing.
Yeah. And do you think there'll be anytime soon a space where I will see like I don't know, something South African, let's say like I'm Zulu, so I'm biased. I want to see someone on the cover wearing ibeshu, like, you know, the traditional like animal skin outfit.
Why?
If you bring me in, I will style it in such a way that it will look fashionable enough.
I think be a time?
The only reason why I ask this is because for me, when I grew up, part of the reason why I do the work that I do and why I'm such a visual sort of like obsessed person, for the first 6 years of my life, I lived with my grandmother because my parents were both too young. They were finishing college before they could work. And that meant that the first 6 years of my life, I was the only child around a lot of old people.
Yeah.
And you're just an accessory. You're just there. Like no one's going to talk to you because you're just a child. And so all I did was watch TV and read magazines. And it blew my mind in terms of like how vastly different that world that was depicted on TV and in magazines was compared to the life I was living, you know, in KwaZulu-Natal. And I think that's where for me the spark came from. I was just like, oh wow, cool, I can dream up all these worlds. And I started noticing every time the things I gravitated towards were always when I would imagine that scenario which was outside of myself, depicting people that looked like me.
Absolutely.
So suddenly, if there was like, if I can relate, if there was like, you know, a black person in this scenario that I was imagining, I remember how much it inspired me because somehow it just made it seem like, oh, I could also then, so I belong in that space too.
Absolutely.
And I think that with GQ, that would make a lot of people feel like, oh, this is maybe for us too.
I think it would. However, so the different ways to look at it, right? So it depends on what it is and how you deliver it. Because
course.
the one thing that I do not like personally is when people appropriate
Yeah.
and appropriate in a very mediocre way.
Of course. Yeah.
So for me, it will have to be something that is well thought out and something that works and that clicks through. Because more than anything, right, there's so many different ways I've learned and I continue to learn to show people what looks like them and what represents where they're from
Yeah.
or where we're all from.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, an example of that would just pretty much to take the Zulu king and then put him on the cover, not necessarily in traditional regalia.
Yeah.
It can be traditional regalia, but put him in like a dope suit that he usually wears.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And just make it very GQ.
I
but
mean, are
also
we
very
designing the next shoot right now? Because I feel like this is it.
Listen, it can be done. That would be a great cover to have.
Yeah.
I've dreamt of it. I've thought of it.
Oh, really? Cool. Wait, is that a thing for you? Do you ever like visualize or dream certain ideas for shoots?
I don't dream like when I'm sleeping, but I do visualize ideas for certain shoots. But usually it's when I'm seated, thinking, when I'm in the shower. I think to be really nice to do this.
Oh, I hate those ideas that come to you in the shower because I have so many great ideas in the shower, and the minute you dry yourself, they all go away.
No, not for me.
Really?
For me, it's I think about it, and let's say 10 ideas come up.
Yeah.
The idea that's the strongest always stays on.
Okay.
And then what I do is I continue to hammer it, continue to think about it, continue to think how can we execute it, and before you know it, boom, we've executed it.
Well, your mind is less chaotic than mine. Because for me, like, yeah, I think of so many beautiful things that I'm just like, if only someone was reading my mind and writing it all down.
But then you should do what I do sometimes, is just record it, voice record it.
Yeah.
Literally voice record an idea.
Yeah. If we spoke about all the things I've had ideas about and then people did them a few years later, I think it speaks to that whole thing about like really believing in yourself that you can do things and not thinking that there's always someone else who's better suited for it.
And for me, I think what it does is I've learned to sift through what I want to do. So I almost have like, not blocks, so, but then for the lack of a better word, I'll say blocks in my life. So there are a lot of things I know how to do, but I know when I'm passionate about it. If in that particular season I'm not passionate about it, I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to look at it because I don't have the passion. But as time goes on, if the passion rises up, I'm like, okay, cool. We're back to doing this. Then we're pushing it.
I've been wanting to know from you, why is the South African fashion landscape so barren at the moment?
Why is it so barren? I don't think it's so barren. I think there's too much focus on people we know.
Okay.
One. Two, I think...
Be more specific. What do you mean by that? Like, how?
There's too much hype on the same people.
Okay, all right, I get that. Yeah.
And the challenge with that is, and I guess obviously as a brand, it's our job. I remember last year for our September issue, our fashion director and the fashion team put together like all these new designers to know, and some of them make like some really, really dope clothes, and we put that out, and it got like great reception. But I do think that there's too much focus on people we already know.
Okay.
And at the same time, because of resources, because of the fact that fashion is not an industry that perhaps the government supports enough. Because as much as we say that people have to consistently do things by themselves, we need to understand that if you are a fashion designer or an entrepreneur, you need support.
Yeah.
And if that support is not coming in, you will then go like, oh, cool, instead of doing fashion, I'd rather do something else.
Yeah, true.
So I think it's that.
Because everyone gets tired of suffering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone gets tired of suffering, absolutely. So I think it's that. I think, and then secondly, we might not have, there's too much, I won't call it copying each other, or maybe assimilate, like there's this idea of people don't want to go alone.
Okay.
So people don't want to just do their own thing.
Yeah. So people will thresh out ideas that they already
that have
know.
already been done.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
they're safe and they know that there's going to be an audience. But then again, that
Exactly.
goes back to my point that is a mark of a barren sort of
That is true. That is true.
And do you see yourself having to play a role in that, in trying to uplift the more unknown, more sort of
Yes.
like avant-garde? And it doesn't necessarily need to be like avant-garde, but like just the lesser celebrated designers.
Yes, we do. I think one of the designers that, at least for me, I didn't know for a bit was Amen.
Okay.
And what we've done is we've had quite a lot of shoots with them. We've had some garments. I've worn a few of their garments, and I feel we played a part somehow to get some people that didn't know them to know them.
Yeah.
Our current cover with Makazole Mapimpi,
Yeah.
he's wearing a design called Unknown.
Okay.
Funny enough, and that's also us playing our part to say, okay, there's not only the popular designers that you know, there are also these other designers.
So
And
who is Unknown?
Unknown is a South African designer.
Okay.
They make really, really great clothes.
Nice. I mean, like it's a like a pastel blue suit that he's wearing on the cover, right?
No, it's a cream suit.
Is it a cream suit? Yeah.
Almost off-white, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Cream
cool. Yeah,
suit,
no,
yeah.
I know it. It's cut like this. Yeah.
Yes, it's really dope, right?
I've seen the
That's like a
cover.
great suit.
Yeah. It's one of your best covers, actually.
Really?
Yeah. It's one of the good ones.
I've had great covers, but it's also one of my.
You don't want me to.
It's also
to
one of my
debate that.
favorite. We're not going to do that. It's also one of my favorite, but I think it's so interesting. I think all my covers are my favorite simply because of the sentiment behind it.
Yeah, they become your babies.
Yes,
Yeah.
and also simply because of the work that goes behind it.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite cover moments, not necessarily only the cover, I remember when we had the Elsa Majimbo cover come out, right?
Yeah.
I remember a friend of mine who's in the industry called me, was like, oh my gosh, this cover is so dope.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to top that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, that's all right.
It'll happen.
Then later on, they call again, oh my gosh, we saw the Super Hot Sticks cover.
Yeah,
Damn,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
I was like, but of course.
Oh yeah, that was a really
was
good
like,
cover
of
as well.
course.
Who shot that?
It was shot by Obakeng.
Okay.
Sincerely Obi.
Yeah.
On Instagram. We shot it at Sipo Hostik's house.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful. I had been to his house years ago, maybe 10 years ago when I used to work at Drum.
Yeah.
And then I really loved the house. I thought the house was pretty dope. And then last year when we were shooting that, because we were working with a particular brand and they were celebrating 50 years, and then he was celebrating 50 years in the music industry, and then he was turning 70. I was like, boom, there it goes. That's our cover. And then we went to shoot it there.
Wow.
It's so beautiful.
That's a great story. Yeah.
And very iconic.
And then you did
stunning.
Nomzamo as well.
Yes, we did Nomzamo, but that was shot in LA.
Okay.
The planning for that back and forth time differences, that was quite crazy, but I also loved that.
But I mean, you have access to the whole world. You are Condé Nast, so
yes, we do.
from the
Yes,
outside,
do.
we
Yes,
think,
do.
oh, it must be such a piece of cake, like for you to organize those kind of things.
No, well, it's not. Well, it's not a piece of cake in that you, and especially when you're dealing with creatives and talent, and their own people. So they have their vision.
So what you're trying to say is that Nomzamo's people are difficult.
No, not Nomzamo's people. Nomzamo's people are not difficult. Actually, interesting enough. I mean, I'm trying to think who has had difficult people.
Oh yeah, you told me Pearl Tusi's people are difficult.
No. But I wasn't there in the time of Pearl Tusi.
Damn it, I
You
can't.
see, that wasn't me.
So,
But Nomzamo's people are really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, creative people, you always butt heads
Okay.
from time to time.
Yeah.
But really, really cool. She's also quite amazing.
Yeah.
I remember, funny enough, so initially they sent me, because as we were shooting, it was during the day, it was a night here, so I had to kind of stay up. Then they sent me shots of the first shot, like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I was like, I hate that wig.
Okay.
And then they're like, okay, cool, so which ones do you want? Then they showed me different options. Like, oh, let's go with this one. Then we finally went with that.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that we're able to work together like that.
Yeah, of course.
Because sometimes I've heard of stories, we've never had it on our side, where a star wants this particular thing. And
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
thinking, no,
Yeah.
this doesn't work.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier that the reason why you like all your covers is because at some point they feel like children to you, because you have them.
Yes. At
And
some point, they feel like children.
yeah, and so then how do you feel about your own children? Because that's something I just learned recently, that you're a dad.
Who told you this? Who told you this, guys?
We do lots of research at Breaking Eggs.
The streets. I think for me, right, it's because I'm not married to the mother of the children.
Yeah.
It is important for me to be as present as I can be.
Okay.
Um,
Do they live with the mom?
yes.
Okay.
I don't talk a lot about my kids and stuff, not because I'm hiding them or anything like that, but I just think there's certain parts of my life that just exist outside of my profession.
Yeah.
But I think I'm a really dope dad. I think I've been an older brother for the longest time. I've been almost like the oldest in the room for the longest time, and also been in positions where people look up to you.
Yeah. Is
So
that
much
where
so that
Grootman comes from?
that's where it comes from. That's where it comes from. But also, I'm not a size 0, so that's one of the things. But I think I am a great dad. I think I'm present. I am just very, very loving, also as an uncle, also as a brother. I think I'm a very loving person. And once you get to know me outside of work, just like, he's actually quite loving and quite kind.
So they're both boys, right?
Yes, they are.
And for you, are there any similarities between
Of
raising
course.
boys and running a magazine that traditionally is meant for men? So basically, you like raising the men of the whole entire nation. I bet you've never thought of it that way, did you?
I've never thought of it that way, but here's what's important for me. What's important for me is, as a child, I grew up seeing Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt. Who else? Who else was popular during that time?
Johnny Depp?
Yeah, Johnny Depp and Tom Selleck.
I don't know who that is.
Chuck Norris.
You might be slightly older than me.
Yeah, I am. But I think I grew up seeing all those people, right?
Yeah.
And Julia Roberts and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
And
You're really pulling out the golden oldies.
I know. But I grew up looking at those people in magazines, on TV.
Yeah.
And that was a representation of what it means to be a sexy man, what it means to be a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
So my job now, as I run a magazine and in the media industry, is to also show people, young men, well, my kids are not young men, they're just kids, but young men and kids as well, to show them a reflection that looks like themselves.
Yeah.
And to be as inclusive as possible from how people look size-wise, their race, and also just change the narrative of what it means what luxury means, the face of luxury, and the face of lifestyle in different ways. So I think for me, that's what it is, and it's been something I've done intentionally, simply because I remember years ago, a couple of years ago, I was in a meeting, right? And while we're in this meeting, so the conversation was about black people, Afrikaans, and English-speaking people.
Okay.
And then
Is this for South African demographic?
yes, and
It's
then
missing a few other.
no, but it was because it was three different demographics that different
language-wise,
we're looking at. And then someone was like, and I kept pushing to say, no, black people are not one layer.
Yeah.
I can be at Rands, and straight from Rands, I can come to Ellerman House.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you will find me wanting to hike.
Yeah.
So I'm not one-dimensional.
Yeah.
So when we look at people, like over the past couple of years, maybe way back when, black people were always looked at very one-dimensional. So I think for me, it's looking at the different facets of who black people are and understanding that there's no one face for a black person.
Amazing. That's brilliant. I didn't think that was still something that I think internally people struggle with when, you guys deal with matrices and demographics all the time. You would have thought that it's advanced. But interestingly enough, I think from my experience, that was one of the things that kind of pushed me into, getting into this content space. Because I remember when I just started, in marketing, and I would see how the most sort of neglected demographic was what is described as the Henry. So high earning, not yet rich, not rich yet.
All right.
And in South Africa, the Henrys are all within the sort of like newly emerging middle class, which will be, sort of like the previously disadvantaged demographic. And yet no new sort of like methods have been put in place of like trying to track and study and understand the needs of just that demographic.
Yes.
And one, you're not serving that demographic, but two, as a marketer or a brand, you're also losing out on someone who actually has the money and the interest in the things you're offering, just because you ignore them and you think that they're not interested. And I think it's some like the historic sort of like, leftover, I don't know, misconceptions.
And when I moved to Cape Town, you were one of the first people of color who I knew was a content person, a creative director.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've managed to continue on that wavelength. And I remember going like, who said this? Yeah. And then I finally got
You're
to
arguing
meet
with your
you.
team, but like, why do you guys keep wanting this guy on the cover? No, he's not going to be on the cover.
And then I got to meet you and then engage with you. I was like, wow, this is quite exciting and interesting that you've been able to do that. And what that does, though, for other people of color, whether be it black, be it any brown people, black, colored, even Chinese, they look at you and go like, oh, wow, okay. So this is what can be done.
Yeah.
This is what's possible.
Yeah.
And I think over the years, we've seen a lot of different other content creators and creative directors of color coming up.
So I guess for me, in my eyes, I would think that that's sort of like the legacy that I feel so far. I mean, you might still go on to do incredible things, but one of the legacies, or the main sort of legacy that I draw from you, is seeing you as this person who takes on the responsibility of, I don't know, not raising the nation, but like try to like steer an agenda that helps, younger people see a bit of themselves in covers of things that they never thought they could.
I remember when we shot the Elsa Majimbo cover. Wow, I don't remember when we shot it exactly, but it was for the July-August issue of 2021. So there's a moment there, right? So she wore this dress by Imprint, Imprint the designer. Yeah. And the photographer was Cedric Ntanga, he's also from Kenya. Yeah. And she saw this dress. She was so excited. Oh my gosh, I want to call my mom to show her. Like, then they took pictures, and Wildest Dreams by Taylor Swift was playing in the background, but it was the instrumental, almost but the almost like a jazzy instrumental. And then she was standing in front of the camera and they're taking pictures, and then there's a moment where she stopped. She couldn't believe like this is happening, and she was teary-eyed, and I was looking at her. Wow. And in that moment I was also teary-eyed, and here's why. Here's this girl from Kenya who blew up to become a sensation during lockdown. The first time I'd had an interview with her, I was still the online editor and heading digital, which was 2020. She had 50K followers. By that time, she was in the millions. I'm now the editor-in-chief of this brand, and she's now going to be on my cover, working with Imprint. Yeah. So that whole moment was such a moment.
Like, I don't think there is a better example for, yes, it can happen.
Yes, it can.
That's exactly it in that moment,
It was. And I mean, then Wildest Dreams playing, guys, I'm just like, you can't create that. It's stuff you can't create. And I remember that moment, I literally almost cried because it was just so beautiful.
The fact that Taylor Swift almost made you cry makes me want to go listen to that song, because I don't know her catalog very well.
You don't know Wildest Dreams?
No.
It's such a beautiful song because the video is beautiful. They shot it at some safari.
So I think music is the one part where I'm quite old. Like, I don't listen to most of the young teeny boppers.
But she's not a teeny bopper.
I mean, compared to, like a Whitney or a Mariah, she is a teeny bopper.
True, actually, true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for
That's
me,
beautiful.
that moment, yeah.
Now, coming off that beautiful high, can I interrogate you by asking you, coming from being the head of digital, why print?
Why print? Because so when the whole process started, obviously, people get shortlisted, their interviews. I was back and forth thinking, okay, would I like to do this? But not necessarily only print, but being able to be in a position where for my career, yes.
Yeah.
For the fact that you can steer the magazine in a particular direction that continues to support a narrative of, for me personally, Black African is equal to globally, was very instrumental in me going like, okay, cool, we can take this on. Obviously, the process was not easy to getting there because, I mean, obviously there are interviews, there are presentations you need to do. Like, it was almost like a 3-month process or something. So for me, that was what it was. But also, it's something I hadn't done. I hadn't been an editor-in-chief before of the brand. I had understood the brand pretty well when I was heading digital, and I'd done quite well, and I thought to myself, imagine what I could do as editor-in-chief and for the print.
Yeah.
And I mean, without tooting my own horn, I think I've done some pretty dope stuff.
No, toot away.
So I think for me, it was those reasons. Like, listen, Black African is on par.
Yeah.
We're on par. We're just as good.
Yeah.
We might be not as advantaged, maybe financially in certain ways, but we're just as good. And the world has become such a global community that even this podcast, someone in the States, someone in Europe will listen to it and go like, okay, who's this person?
Yeah.
Who's Seth? Who's Molife? Let me find out who they are.
I mean, technically they already know who
exactly. And and then when we rock up there, we're just like, just like you.
Yeah. And do you have any concerns about where the print publication sort of industry is going?
So I'll say this, right? I think for me, what I've realized, and even before I got into this role, is that print, so it's about the brand. I think at the end of the day, it's all about the brand.
Yeah.
So each facet of the brand matters.
Yeah.
So the job is to strengthen all those facets. So print has been declining for years. We have been privileged enough to continue like on a trajectory that goes up, but hasn't really gone up, but continues steady. But I'm not
Which
really
is not a privilege shared by many publications.
I know.
Yeah.
But I do think as well it's a matter of just understanding that yes, print is a dying industry, but it's not going to totally die, because I think there continues to be a niche audience who do still want print. But as a brand, your biggest job is to keep the brand that people love alive, and then do different touch points. So if you do a 360, print will become another part of the 360. Digital,
but it
events,
might occupy a smaller fraction.
A smaller fraction, but a stronger fraction, because it's not. It's almost like people will go like, "Yeah, we can do digital, but I want a print cover," because it's still that important. Your mom, your grandma, whoever can still hold. You can still hold it.
Yeah.
While your mother is like, "Oh, please, we're on the website." That's nice, but it's like, no, but
you can't. Yeah. No, I mean. Again, I can never tell whether this is because I, grew up in the 90s and so I'm older. So as a result, I'm still romanticized to the idea of a print publication. But I just wonder, for me, like, well, if it is declining, I think that speaks to the fact that people are now consuming content in different ways.
Yes.
Okay. But then if that's the case, why are we not changing what print actually means then? why aren't we going back to the start? Like, go back to the times of Grace Coddington, or what was the other lady's name? I can see her name, like the one who used to do the stoppers for Vogue. And go back to those people where you're like, cool, let's make the print publication the most romantic thing we could possibly. We do the most elaborate shoots possible so that they're always collector's items, and even if they're thin as hell, because we're not trying to actually sell, because we can put all our stories that we're telling online, but the print is just for us to dream.
But you know what's surprising though is that advertisers they still advertise.
They'll definitely want to advertise that, because it'll be like a dream book. It'll literally be a coffee table book.
I totally agree with you. I think, are we there yet in South Africa? No. Could we head there? Yes. It requires strategy. It requires planning. It requires...
And sadly, budget.
Yes, budget and visionary. But yeah, that's something that can be done, but are we there yet? No.
Okay. Because I find that for me, in how I consume things, I'll still go into GQ website because I want to know what's current and happening. But when it comes to like buying a physical copy, I will buy the one that I think was the prettiest, or like the most effort went into shooting the actual editorials inside, because that's something I want to keep. That's something you move from house to house with, like we're still those kind of creatures, but you're not going to do that with every one of them.
That's true.
But unless all of them became...
are so great, but I mean, like, hey, they have been great though. I know you want this debate, but no. Debate.
Yeah, no. I'm actually not saying anything. I just wanted to pick your brain because I feel like it's important to have someone who's at the top of this industry have a word in terms of what they think where they think it's going, because if it is diminishing, I think it doesn't speak to the fact that it should be abandoned.
Absolutely.
But it means that it should be overhauled. Like, we can't keep doing the same thing expecting a change, but if we overhaul it, then what can we do? And my idea is I think we should just turn it into coffee table books and
but
make
also,
it
I think
over the top.
If you look in South Africa though, there are a lot of other magazines that are coming up. So the industry is like, we're in a dance phase after COVID, so it went, but then there are other magazines that if you go to the shelves, you find quite...
You don't find men's magazines. Like, I don't know what other men's...
Yes, but that's the thing though. So I think you don't find men's magazines, but I think for us, the coffee table book would be GQ style.
When was the last time that was published?
2 years ago.
Yeah, you see.
But it's still coming. I mean, hey, it's coming. And when it comes, you're going to be like, okay, a real coffee table book.
No, wait for me to have my body right, because I'll be on the cover of that. Like, I've been waiting for a while.
Listen, we love all types of bodies. So
no. I am not covered like this. No. When my moment finally comes, it needs to come right.
but you'll be wearing clothes though.
No, I don't have to. Hey, you remember the cover of Vanity Fair with Tom Ford and Scarlett Johansson and Keira Knightley, where they were both naked and he's wearing a suit? Like, I would rather just do that and have like a mannequin next to me wearing the suit that I would be wearing. That's already a strong cover.
Interesting.
And just a backdrop behind me, like a backdrop, so it looks like it's a shoot about to happen. This is a mannequin of an outfit I am about to wear, but I haven't worn it, and the photographer just took the photo. I was like, oh, whoops!
Wow.
Now it's on the cover.
Interesting.
2024. It's gonna be a great year for me.
2020. Wow, that's like.
That's how long I need to make my body good.
No. Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, cool. So, lastly, as someone who was born in Zim. Raised in Johannesburg and worked in Johannesburg, and now you're living in Cape Town. How are you finding Cape Town?
I love Cape Town. However, I always say this. I love Cape Town. Cape Town is beautiful. And my experience of Cape Town has really, really, really been amazing.
Okay.
But because of my privileges, I can say that about living in Cape Town as a black person. Other black people who don't have the same privileges won't be able to say the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Cape Town. I enjoy it. It's peaceful. People mind their own business. People have great personal style, like personal style, not just style. There's so much to see. There's so much to do. Some people consider it slow, but I think it works for me. But I also slow, can't really say much because I travel so often that I get to enjoy this quiet for like 4 or 5 days, then boom, I have to travel again.
Yeah.
So perhaps if we could speak to someone who's moved and hasn't really gone back to Joburg in 2 years, of like, they will have a different experience.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And why are you so confident in yourself? Why do you believe that you're capable of doing the things that you put your mind to?
Two things. Okay, so outside of the fact that I believe in God, like really, really strongly, but it's not even like one of those things where you just cover the blanket with God. Two, I really like myself. And the like of myself is not from a vain perspective. I mean, I am vain to a certain extent, but it's simply because I have lived in my body for 39 years in a few weeks, in next month. But I know what I've been through. I know I've been with myself step by step by step by step. So I've seen what I've been able to achieve. I've seen what I've been able to think and not achieve and achieve. So much so that I know my capability way more than anyone else. So because of that, I sit in that confidence after the confidence that I have in God.
Beautiful. Wow. Okay. That's nice. So besides the glory and the things that you do, which we are aware of, what was your lowest point and how did you get yourself out of it?
So my lowest point, right, was when years ago when I joined an organization, right? Because I'm a happy person. I'm like a happy person. Not understanding that the person I was reporting to was not as excited to have me on board.
Okay.
So I was very slow to realize that. And then I would get a lot of things, I'd get sabotaged in very weird ways where bosses would be CC'd in emails, or your team missed a comma here, you didn't do this here. You'd get cut off during a presentation by your boss, presentation to, let's say, the board by your boss. And I didn't know what that was. And then I kept on questioning myself, but what am I not getting right? What am I not getting right? To a point where I started questioning my competence. I started questioning, going like,
am
I really competent at this? Like, am I good at this? Then I remember a friend of mine, then I was speaking to a friend of mine, I was like, but I don't know what's going on. Then my friend was like, you're young. I'm like, yeah, I'm younger than this person.
Yeah.
They're like, you're young. I'm like, yes, I'm younger than this person. They're like, you're also black, getting to a space that has been traditionally white.
Okay.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Then they said that about 4 times, and I got it. I got it. And then after that, I started seeing things differently. I've never been a combative person, but I learned to become to stand up for myself.
Yeah. Become a bit feistier.
Yes, to become a bit feistier, because that was so out of character for me. But I learned to become a bit feistier, and also having been a person who was so confident, I think that confidence kind of shook people to say, who do you think you are?
Oh, yeah.
And
but
then,
do you feel like your confidence took a knock during that period when you were questioning whether you were competent at that?
Yes. So my professional confidence, definitely, it took a knock, because I was like, but like, do I really know what I'm doing? Like, and I think for me, that was like a low moment, because I remember there's a song by Zaza.
Okay.
Do you know Zaza, a gospel singer? Oh wow!
No, I don't.
What do you? It's called Dipiri.
Yeah.
So the song is what it says is like there are a lot of things that happen that you don't know in secret.
Okay.
But then he says, Father, forgive them for the things they're trying to do. So
I know a song similar to that by Lauryn Hill.
What was that?
It's Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. It's from Miseducation.
Exactly.
Of
So
Lauryn Hill.
it was similar to that. And I remember listening to it at the gym during that time. And I was so frustrated. I was so frustrated, because I was like, but but I'm good at what I do though. But
Yeah,
I'm really,
yeah, yeah.
really dope.
So then how
why-
did you overcome that? How did you come to a point of, sort of like rising above that?
I think how I overcame that was after I had the conversation with a friend of mine, right? I got it. Then I stopped being apologetic about the fact that I know what I know.
Yeah. And
I stopped literally the next morning when I said, yeah, I can do that. I literally stopped it. I was like, I remember we even had a meeting and then HR was involved. And then I sat there and I was like, I actually know what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. And the fact that you would make it seem like I don't know what I'm doing, you're playing on me. And then I remember what
So you went full on just standing up for
went-
yourself.
I went full on. And I remember what Maya Angelou said once, which was very interesting, that I consistently say to people. What sometimes people do is they don't come at you straight. It's almost like a bird that's eating away at you at different places. So you get weak.
Yeah.
So by the time they do the last knock, you're already weak. But the moment you see someone coming at you, go straight at them, because then they realize that, hey, the fight is on. And usually people are coming at you when they see that. They step down very fast because they don't want to come at you straight.
Yeah. Wow. Did Maya Angelou say that? About
Maya
the
Angelou,
bird?
no, obviously Maya Angelou.
No,
didn't
but
say
about the
that.
bird.
Yes, about the bird. Yes, it's like
It comes
chirp
at you.
on people bit
Shame.
by bit.
She must have
by
suffered.
bit.
Like a lot of her pearls of wisdom all have a lot to do with being betrayed and stuff.
I think she must have suffered, or she must have been extremely self-aware.
True. But because for me, the one that I remember by her is like, when people show them who they are, believe them the first time. And I was just already, it comes from being slightly jaded. But I mean, I love Maya.
But has that ever happened to you though? When people show you who they are, believe them the first time?
I mean, you always give them the benefit of the doubt. You just always think, they didn't mean to. And then they keep doing bad things. You're like, whoa, okay. And then, but the third time you believe them. But the first time it's hard to believe.
But
Because then
sometimes
otherwise...
it's not even bad things, you know that? Sometimes it's
no.
not the bad things. When someone shows you who they are, if someone shows you they're dependable, they're loving, they're whatever, believe them.
Yeah.
And I think because sometimes I see
But that's easier to believe. Like, I'd like to believe that everyone is good and capable of doing what they say and what they believe in.
Yeah, I mean, true. I mean,
But they disappoint you daily. But
also we disappoint other people. So I'm always like,
speak for yourself. I'm lovely. I'm joking. Cool. Anyway, Molife,
yes,
thank you so much for your time.
thank you.
I know how busy you are.
I mean, you're also busy, so yeah.
And I love the fact that you allowed me to sort of like have an unscripted conversation with you where I could basically go wherever my brain would take me. And I appreciate that you didn't resist me, because I know how, like, it's a little bit like some people say that you're an enigma because you try and keep, things professional and about work because you know exactly what it is you walk through the doors to do on a daily basis. But I got to like squeeze it into some personal stuff. So thank you for indulging me, and thank you for your time. And I can't wait to actually talk to you again soon.
This was cool. This was exciting. I went spaces that, but I also guess because I trust you, and when you speak on things like this, you realize that someone somewhere might just listen to it.
Yeah.
And that little drop might just do something for them.
Exactly. Which is all we're hoping for with this. It's just like inspire someone to see life slightly differently. And and it starts with the mindset. And which is why I was picking at your sort of like ideas of how you got yourself out of things, or how you believe in stuff, because it is that mindset that we need.
Cool. Hi, it's Molife Kumona here, and you're watching Breaking Eggs with Seth Shezi.
Thank you for listening. Catch us next week for another episode of Breaking Eggs with Seth Shezi. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave us a review. We would love to hear from you. Until then, let's break.